Hi everyone. Welcome to tonight's Renewable Heat Now Power Hour. If you're just joining in the chat, please share your name, your pronouns, your location, and how you're feeling today. I'm Jen Rand. I'm an organizer with New Yorkers for Clean Power, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Power Hour tonight. So today we're going to share a little bit about Renewable Heat Now for anyone who's new. We're going to talk about a recent breaking news update about the All Electric Buildings Act. We're going to give an update on the 100-foot rule repeal, and then we're going to share a utility profit report that we put together. And then we're going to discuss our upcoming events and actions that we're planning to get Hochul to sign the 100-foot rule repeal, including a December Albany mobilization that I really hope all of you can join us at. And then we will be going through some all-electric building reports. So a little bit about Renewable Heat Now. We are a campaign to accelerate equitable building decarbonization throughout New York State. Our organizations work together to pass legislation, influence regulations, and educate the public and state officials about energy efficiency, reducing fossil fuel demand, and making sure the transition to clean energy is an affordable one for all New Yorkers across the state. And if you want to follow us on social media or join our email list or sign up for our events, please check out our link tree. That's a great way to plug in to what we're doing. Oh, Andra, you beat me. Thank you. So why do we focus on buildings? The largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in New York comes from burning fossil fuels for heating, cooking, and hot water in our buildings, as well as from the methane that leaks at every stage of the natural gas distribution system, from extraction to delivery in our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses. Fossil fuel use causes both indoor and outdoor air pollution that's not only harmful to our health, but is also a significant contributor to climate change. And in the short term, methane is a far more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. But scientists have known since 2001 that reducing methane emissions as soon as possible is kind of like pulling an emergency brake. It's going to slow down climate change, which will give us more time to adapt and make the communities we love and care about more resilient while we deploy other solutions that will heal the environment, which we also know is possible. And that's why we do what we do. So thank you all for being here. And yeah, so first of all, we just wanted to say thank you to so many of you for your rapid response to this Nessie pipeline decision. The PSC, that's the New York's utility regulator, they approved National Grid's long-term gas plan, and that was effectively rubber stamping the Nessie pipeline. And our dear colleague Anshul and also one of our colleagues, Chris Casey from NRDC, put together petitions to the PSC for a rehearing because their reasoning we thought was baseless. And in a record time, almost 2,000 of you submitted comments supporting the rehearing. So thank you all so much for doing that. But as many of you know, last Friday, the pipeline was approved by the DEC. They released the water permits that we were hoping they would deny. So our friends at Climate Families New York City and many other folks in our coalition, including Betta, went to New York City and marched in the streets as a rapid response to this action. So yes, as I mentioned, the Hochul administration has been pretty disappointing lately. Just in the past week, the Hochul administration approved the Nessie pipeline, reversed a decision that denied the Greenidge fracked gas power plant permit, and also suspended implementation of the all-electric building regulations. And to talk to us more about the last point, I'm going to turn it over to Liz Moran of Earth Justice. Liz, are you there?
Hi. Sorry, everyone. Good to be with you this evening. I know it has been a really tough go of things. So I'm Liz Moran. I'm a New York policy advocate with Earth Justice. Before I get even further into what transpired yesterday regarding New York State's all-electric buildings law, I will make note. I am not an attorney with my organization, so bear that in mind if you end up having any questions related to legal work. So I want to kick things off by going over the timeline, like how, not really how we got to where we are now, but the storyline, right? So in 2021, we kicked off a campaign to advocate for a statewide policy that would require all electric new construction. This made a ton of sense, right? Like many of us worked on the scoping plan for New York State's climate law, and part of that scoping plan included a recommendation that, we are going to have to get people off fossil fuels, and it makes sense to start with new construction. We shouldn't lock people into more and more fossil fuel use. So we kick off the campaign, and in between the state law passing, we do get a New York City level version of the law. It's called Local Law 154. But then in 2023, the governor actually introduced a state version of all electric new construction in her executive budget proposal. And that year it is passed in the final state budget. So building code needs to change to make sure we can actually implement the law. And earlier this year in 2025, the Building Code Council issued a code update that incorporates all the requirements of the All Electric Buildings Act. So, not surprisingly, the oil and gas industry sued against New York City's local law and the state law. Not the first place in the country to see this litigation. Municipalities in California also faced litigation. The accusations tend to be the same. It challenges states' abilities to regulate fossil fuels in homes by asserting that it would violate a federal law called EPCA. So we have been winning in the courts in New York. Earlier this year in July, a U.S. district court, found that New York State can move forward with this law. And the opponents, in response to that, filed an injunction to stop the law, basically saying, like, this law shouldn't go forward until this litigation finishes. And therefore, a month ago, on behalf of the state, the New York State Attorney General defended the law against the injunction. And they argued that it would be harmful to New Yorkers to not move forward with this law. And yet, just in a week's time, it seems, that determination changed. And yesterday, the Attorney General reversed course, and they agreed to an injunction. So you could see the headline, the news broke in the Times-Union. they decided to agree to the stipulation that was put forward by the opponents on the case. So this is really disappointing for so many different reasons. It's yet another example where the governor had put forward her own policy and then uh, self-sabotaged it. Um, so some things to note that transpired during the period of time between when the attorney general defended this and the governor made a decision to use the litigation as a tool to delay the law. There was tremendous pressure from corporate real estate and the oil and gas industry for the governor to delay this law all summer long. It amplified, I would say, in recent months. And then about a week and a half ago, a select group of Assembly Democrats penned a letter to the governor asking her to issue an executive order delaying the law. And then when she was asked about this, the governor did say on the record that she was considering delaying the law. And so now here we are, where the governor has conveniently found a way to delay this law. It runs directly counter to her own energy affordability priorities. And it feels like a clear example where the governor is believes in energy affordability so long as it's lining the wallets of the oil and gas industry rather than regular New Yorkers. So what does that mean? I would say that at a minimum, we're probably looking at a year-long delay. So next slide. So, at this point, we've got to keep pushing, right? Like I can't deny that this is a huge blow. And we have suffered a number of blows in the past year from, not just what's going on federally, but unfortunately our own governor. So we have to keep pushing. I'll at this point pause and turn it back to Lisa Marshall.
Hey everybody, let's fix the spotlight here. Can I spotlight myself? Yes. Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Marshall. I'm the Director of Organizing and Advocacy at New Yorkers for Clean Power and the lead organizer with Renewable Heat Now. It's nice, thank you all for being here tonight. It's a very difficult night for a lot of us. But I'm here to remind you first and foremost that the fight must go on. The fossil fuel industry lost this fight several times, but they did not stop fighting, and they kept fighting until they got this win, this setback for us. But they didn't stop fighting, so we can't either. The all-electric building law, as we know, is a sensible law. It just makes sense. It's it's beneficial for new buildings to be all electric. There's really no downside to it. It's more affordable, more comfortable, more climate resilient buildings that we're trying to build here in New York. And I remember one of the elected officials, once said it's like if we were building, a hitching post for horses outside of all of our buildings now. That's sort of the equivalent to connecting our buildings to fossil fuels in 2026. So we are going to keep fighting, and we're going to have a lot of ways to take action in this call, but this is only one that is specific to the All Electric Building Act. The Codes Council is meeting again on December 5th. This is the entity, the body that took the All Electric Building Law and put it into New York State's building code, and that they did do that earlier this year, but they're meeting again on December 5th, and you can join their meeting and speak for a couple of minutes, either in person in New York City or a couple of or Albany, sometimes Buffalo, or on WebEx. And we're just going to encourage people to join on WebEx and be prepared to speak. And Michael Hernandez of Rewiring America is leading this effort, and he's going to have a Zoom to help prepare you all on the night before, on December 4th. So if you've joined that before, I think it's 2 minutes to speak, and you really want to speak in support of why it makes sense for New York to have all electric buildings. And I'll just remind you that um, our movement has not done a good enough job of getting the word out to regular everyday New Yorkers about why all electric buildings are beneficial and important, and they should want them. And we need to keep getting the word out. So we're going to do that. The information will be shared, Carol, following this meeting. Okay, next slide, please. So we have to defend the All Electric Building Act that we won in 2023. The other thing we really need to do this year is make sure the governor signs the repeal of the 100-foot rule. This is the outdated legislation that means that anytime somebody wants to hook up to the gas system, all gas customers pay for it. And this charge, we recently learned, is we've been saying $200 million a year that gets added to all gas customers' bills, but the year that we have the most recent complete data set for, which was 2021, it was actually close to six. Oh, we'll go back to this slide. Can you please go back to the other slide? This one back, thank you. It's very expensive, and it's raising our rates, and it's also padding the pocketbooks of the gas utilities. They are making all of their profits, you might not know this, from building infrastructure. They actually don't make profits from selling us gas. They make profits from building infrastructure. And I'm going to go into some of our recent data about the utility profits, that if you weren't already mad when you got to this call, you're going to be even more mad when you see their profits. But so this law says we have to pay for these gas hookups. This is a very antiquated law. Many states are already doing away with this provision. And in the spring, New York State, or in June, the legislature passed the repeal of this rule. I think most of the people on this call have been part of that fight. It was part of the New York Heat Act, and it's the part that we won this year. The governor still has not signed it. And as you can see from the past weeks of actions, we cannot trust that the governor is going to take this action without us making sure that she knows that lots of New Yorkers want this and need it and demand it. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to go into a little bit of a deep dive. So the All Electric Building Act has three parts. One was this repeal of the 100-foot rule, which is this provision that means we have to pay for new gas hookups. The other was, there were two other provisions, including changing the utility law to mean that the utilities can provide other heating service other than gas, and also to examine an energy affordability provision to make sure that home heating is affordable. So we really need to repeal this, and this is the year to do it because it took us 3 years to pass this through the legislature. So it's time for the governor to put her money where her mouth is and sign it. This is a climate law, but it's also an energy affordability rule. And I think, did we pass? Okay, here we go. So we've had some analysis about how much this 100-foot rule costs ratepayers, or in other words, gas customers in each utility territory. It's quite different from territory to territory. And on the whole, we've had these estimates that it's around $200 million a year, the cost of this. But new analysis from the Public Utility Law Project, or PULP, shows that in the year that they had full data from the utilities, full disclosure on the cost of this rule, it actually cost $600 million in 2021. And we don't have a full data set from any year that's more recent than that. So this is costing ratepayers a ton of money, that just to expand the gas system, to expand the use of fossil fuels in New York, to worsen the climate crisis. And it just makes absolutely no sense in this day and age for us to be doing this. Next slide. Okay, so in order to show how ludicrous this is, we wanted to show you this new report about utility profits. the utilities do not, as I said before, they do not make their money from selling us the product, the gas itself. The price of the gas goes up and down based on the market price of gas. But the other part of your bill, the delivery fee, that's where the utilities make their profits. And they make their profits on all the money that they spend on infrastructure, like building new pipes or digging up the ground to replace old pipes with new pipes. All of that, they get a guaranteed rate of return for their shareholders, and we all pay for that. So let's look how New York State's gas utilities have been raking in the dough and off on our backs. And I'm going to show you some graphs that are pretty hard to swallow. So the New York's 5 major for-profit investor-owned utilities increased their profits 63% between 2015 and 2024 on average. The utility corporations that made the most money off of their customers are Central Hudson, National Grid, and Avangrid, which is Rochester Gas and Electric, otherwise known as RG&E, and New York State Gas and Electric, that's NYSEG. So Central Hudson alone doubled their profits in the past decade. Avangrid, which is NYSEG RG&E, saw profits increase over 185% between 2015 and 2024. And the profits were at their 10-year peak in the last few years. 2024 was the biggest collective profit, where all 5 utilities made nearly $3.7 billion in profit in 1 year. And I want to make it clear, this is just the profits that they're making off of New York. Some of these utilities operate in other places, but this is just the New York numbers. So it's pretty egregious, and all of that profit is from the infrastructure they're building. So it's either gas line extensions, like we're trying to stop paying for with the 100-foot rule, or digging up and replacing old gas lines with new gas lines. We don't want them to do that anymore. We want them to replace old gas lines with heat pumps and thermal energy networks. And at least if they're making a profit off of those, they'll be investing in our renewable energy future instead of in an antiquated and deadly gas system. So the utility profit report is linked and you can read it for yourself, but this is a great argument to be using for why we need to move off the gas system and why your utility bills are going up. We don't have a slide on this, but last month, I believe, the Public Service Commission came out with a report showing how much of the cost of energy increases has to do with the CLCPA. And it's a very, very small percent. Most of it is this other stuff. It is not climate measures. And we are losing that battle in the media. So, and with the public, we need to make sure people know that the cost of utilities and is going up and up, but it's not because of the climate, because of the CLCPA. That is a false narrative. Next slide, please. Okay. We are all going to take a moment now to take action together on the 100-foot rule. There's a QR code where you can just aim your phone at that and submit an email. Even if you've done this action before, we've actually updated the language just today with a new message for the governor on the 100-foot rule. So go ahead and do it again. And also, we're going to just pause for a minute and we're all going to call the governor. There's no one to answer the phone there now. So what you want to do is press 1 to leave a message. And we have a little script for you about the 100-foot rule. Please talk about the 100-foot rule first, and then feel free to add whatever other message you want to send to the governor today. And I'm going to just give us until 7. I'm going to give us 5 minutes until 7:34 to complete both of those actions. There's 58 people on this call, so I think we can get a lot of calls in. Okay, I'm going to mute myself while I leave the message.
To repeat these options, please press 3.
Okay, I see some people saying they're done. Got 2 more minutes to send the email and leave the call. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Vicky. I'm trying to get an emoji to everybody. Melissa. Lois. Thuria. Daryl. Peter. Carol. Stuart. Nevo. Patricia. Carol. Diana. Josh. Dave, Ellen, Rachel, Jay, John. Action together, even if it's only to leave a very pissed off message with the governor. Okay, 1 more minute. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, John. Yes, I did both too. Thank you, Anshul. Thank you, Liz. I like your emoji, Liz, the best. Okay, great. All right. Let's go to the next slide. People are wrapping up here. Feeling the love on this call. Okay. It is great to make calls and send emails, but we have to hit the streets. We have to get in the media. We know the media is the most powerful thing we can do to influence the governor, and to get in the media means we have to have press events. We are having a whole bunch of local press events starting next week in Rochester on Monday. We are going to be in Brooklyn on Thursday. That's going to be super cool. What the Rochester one is with Harry Bronson, Assemblymember Harry Bronson, and the Climate Solutions Accelerator. So please join if you can. If you're near Rochester, let your Rochester people know about it. The Brooklyn Press Conference is going to be at New York City's first all-electric skyscraper. And Assemblymember Emily Gallagher and a whole bunch of other assembly members are going to be there. So please join if you are in New York City. That evening in the Bronx is going to be one of our Breathe Easy workshops. These are sort of education and outreach, plus taking action together, and helping folks really learn about things like the hazards of gas stoves. We usually give away a gas cooktop. We have energy savings kits, and that's going to be with Assemblymember Septimo. On and look for more of these regional actions leading up to December. There, we're going to be adding more. We already mentioned the Building Code Council meeting on December 5th, and we're going to have a big mobilization to Albany on December 11th, and we invite you all to join us to defend our climate wins, deliver our 100-foot rule postcards to the governor. I'm going to go over all that on the next slide. The December Power Hour is going to be the 18th, where we're going to be keying up 2026 work together, as well as debriefing how our Albany action went. We are going to be circulating to organizations for sign-on the 2025 Building Electrification Equity Platform letter, starting, I think, tomorrow. So if you are somebody who can sign on for your organization, please let us know, and we'll share that letter with you for sign-on. In the past, we've gotten over 250 organizations to sign on to those letters. This is the letter where we let the governor know what our priorities are for building electrification. And we want you all to have your organization sign on. There's an ongoing effort for letters to the editor and op-eds. And if you are interested, we will give you the contact information of Stephanie Doba, who runs the Sierra Club Letter to the Editor group, or Summer from Sunstone Strategies, who can help you with an op-ed. We'll put those emails in the chat. All right, so next up, we were supposed to have, December 11th in Albany. Let's go to that. Sorry, thank you. Okay. We have planned what we think is going to be a very exciting and powerful day for all of you to join us in Albany on December 11th. We have a bus from New York City. We are going to add at least one more bus, depending on where the most need for transportation is. But we want you to come no matter where you are in the state. And if you have trouble with transportation and you need a ride or a reimbursement, please let us know. We're going to start in the war room. This is sort of the big, sort of like chamber outside the governor's executive offices with some horrible and bloody murals. That's why they're called of war. It's called why it's called the war room. We're going to deliver the stacks of postcards we've been getting signed all over the state, urging the governor to sign the 100-foot rule if she hasn't signed it already. By then, we're going to have one advocacy speaker from each utility territory, as well as any legislators who want to join us at our press conference. We're going to be doing some really fun singing. We're going to have some amazing art, and you don't want to miss that. Yes, wear your t-shirts, Mary, for sure. Then we're going to serve you a wonderful lunch, and we're going to have some teach-ins about, we're really going to have to think hard about what are the strategic opportunities in 2026. It's going to be a very hard year. We understand where our governor is now, and she's going into an election year. We're going to have to look for kind of some unusual pathways towards success, towards our goals in 2026. One of them is going to be just trying to hold on to what we have, defending the climate law, defending the CLCPA. We're going to be organizing some big efforts to defend the CLCPA because we are pretty sure that there's going to be efforts to weaken that existing climate law. Other pathways are going to be, what can we do in New York City where we have a new mayor-elect? What progress can we make on the city level? The city is half of New York State's population and a world capital. So what happens in the city is important. And then the other area where we see opportunity is working at the Public Service Commission through the utility regulations that they control there. So we'll be going over all of those strategic opportunities at the teach-ins. Our goals for the day are to show Governor Hochul that the and the fossil fuel industry that we are not going to give up easily. We are going to keep fighting. We're going to keep pressuring, and we are powerful and strong. And we have a equally important goal of supporting each other through this difficult time in our movement, being together, being in solidarity, showing our love and appreciation for each other. We hope that you will join us if you can possibly make it. We'll probably be having, I'll just tee this up, a big Defend the CLCPA action. We're talking to New York Renews and other coalitions about coordinating around that in late January. And there's already planned an April mass mobilization on climate, which I believe is April 18th. But we think we're going to have a mass mobilization much sooner than April to defend the CLCPA. So we'll be giving you information about that at the December Power Hour. All right, let's go to the next slide. So we were going to have a great presentation from Juan Pablo Velez of Switchbox about the CLC, about the electric building law and why the opposition's talking points are so wrong. And Juan Pablo is quite ill tonight, and so he has sent me his slides. And what I'm going to do is do my very best to, if you could unshare the slides, please, Jen. Yes, hello. I'm going to do my very, very best to try to present these briefly to you. Juan Pablo does such good slides that it's pretty self-explanatory, but I want everyone to know I am not with Switchbox, and if I get something wrong, that's on me, not on Switchbox. And why is it still important to present these studies about all electric buildings to you? Because we still have to fight this and we still have to win this. And we are losing the public perception about electric buildings. So we all need to be armed with all the information and the facts and get them out there. And we need to stop just talking to each other and to legislators, but start talking more to the public so that we can debunk these falsehoods and get people excited about the comfortable, safe, heated and cooled buildings that we want to build in New York. So I'm gonna, yes, exactly, Jen. We need to set the record straight. So let me share my screen. Hopefully you won't see all my terrible tabs that are open. Okay. Can you see that? So again, these are Juan Pablo slides, and I'm going to just try to do them justice as best I can. So please bear with me. So with the climate crisis, what we've often said about all electric buildings is if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging, stop building new buildings with fossil fuel heating and appliances in them. Let's start with new construction. So how it started. New York decided to try to ban natural gas, including new stoves in new buildings when we passed the all-electric building law in 2023. How it's going. Builders are calling on lawmakers. This is a little out of date. This is from a few weeks ago to stop or delay the all-electric plan. If we updated this today, we'd say that they have prevailed for the moment and that the governor has put a monkey wrench in the beginning of the all-electric buildings, which we're supposed to start a little over a month from now. So the opposition says that they can't build all electric because it will be much more expensive and it will grind the housing industry to a halt, and we need new housing. Is this true? No, it's not true. All electric single family home is going to save money on average. If you average gas and propane homes, and it will save on average $1,360 a year statewide. This, of course, depends on how much electricity costs, how much gas costs, what the climate is in your part of the state, whether you're heating with gas or propane, but this is the average amount of savings. So let's dig down a little more into that. So propane heating is very expensive. If you don't have access to the gas system, you're probably heating with propane. Means you have a propane tank that needs to get filled. You have propane hot water, propane stove, and propane heating. And you might also have electric powered gas. Electric powered air conditioning. That's a very expensive house that requires a lot of different energy sources to heat and cool. Oh, see, these slides are too fancy for me. I don't even know how to handle them. So if you have a gas heated house, it's similar, but you are linked to the gas main with a gas service line. And I believe Juan Pablo said that the average cost in New York for a gas service line to go from the main to your house is $12,000. This is the cost that we are all paying because of the 100-foot rule. But if we can get Governor Hochul to sign the 100-foot rule, then that new construction will have to pay for that gas line. So all of that cost will be part of the cost of building a gas-fired home or building. This is just single-family homes for an example. So in the other hand, you have all electric, where you just have one system going to the house. You have the electric line that does heating, air conditioning, cooking, hot water heating, dryers, etc. So the savings as compared to a propane heated home are over $1,000 a year, $1,130. The savings with gas are more modest. The current price of gas is lower than propane, so it's $610 a year, and that includes the cost of that gas main that currently we are all paying for. But if Governor Hochul signs the 100-foot rule, that cost will be incurred by the building builder or owner. So if you look at the operating costs and the annual mortgage payment on the equipment costs of owning that new house, this is how it's broken down in the Switchbox report, which we can share the link to, and you can read it to your little heart's content and dig more deeply into the data than we can go tonight. So as Liz, I think, said earlier, 19 moderate Dems signed a letter initiated by Assemblymember Conrad pushing Hochul to delay the all-electric building mandate. And that has been a pretty devastating blow. It included Crystal Peoples-Stokes, who is the leader in the assembly under next in line under Hastie. Conrad said, I don't want to have a blackout or a brownout because especially in the winter, that's something I know my constituents and myself could not put up with. This is complete and utter misinformation for a number of reasons. The first is that the law itself says that if the area is electricity constrained, then the builder can get an exemption and they can get gas. But also because of the following, which is the second Switchbox report. This one actually just came out today. So can the grid handle all electric new construction? Yes, it absolutely can. Let's dig in a little bit more. So where the grid is at risk currently of being over capacity is summer peaks. That's the hottest day of the summer when everyone in New York turns on their air conditioning. But new buildings already are going to have air conditioning in them. And so whether they're gas, propane, or all electric, they're going to have air conditioning. And there's data that shows that if they have heat pumps, that air conditioning is more efficient. So it would be actually less strain on the grid to build all electric in the less strain on the grid in the summer to build all electric, assuming that building has air conditioning. But nobody's building new construction in New York now that doesn't have air conditioning. So the all-electric building law will increase electricity use in winter for heating. So let's look at the impact of that. So here is the summer peak of electricity use in 2025. You might remember that heat wave. Some of us were watching with horror and a lot of anxiety the marginal cost of electricity and how much was being drawn off the grid on those hottest days. But in the winter, it was at the peak was much, much lower, as you can see. And that isn't just in 2025, that's every year. um, our peaks in New York are all at the summer. In the winter, we have a lot of excess um, capacity in our electric grid. And all electric buildings are not going to change that anytime soon. We're not building that many new buildings in New York that would have a big impact on this situation. So this whole idea that the grid would be strained by all electric new buildings is a complete and utter lie, and just not in any sense true. And remember that the law itself allows for an exemption if there was to be a part of the grid where a building was going to be built where there was a grid constraint. So there is just really no excuse. I wonder what this slide is going to be about. Oh, so what about in the future? Okay. So the All Electric Building Act, we'd have 7% winter peak growth by 2040. So still not even nearing the capacity of the grid. We just don't build that many new buildings, is the bottom line. Most of our buildings are old buildings and existing buildings. So that's it for the Switchbox report. I'm not going to take questions because Juan Pablo isn't here, but we can share those reports with you. And when he's feeling better, we can, I'm sure, organize another time for him to answer your questions. But those reports are something you can turn to if anybody asks you about the two most often cited objections to all electric buildings, which are the cost and which are the grid capacity. Neither of those things is really relevant. New buildings are built very energy efficiently. They're quite inexpensive to heat and cool with a heat pump. And if you build with geothermal or a thermal energy network, those costs go down even more. So you're really looking at something that is not only good for the planet, healthy, affordable, comfortable, and just really better than the kinds of heating and cooling systems that we have now. So thank you all for your attention and your patience. I think I'm going to unspotlight myself. And thank you all for being here tonight. I'd love it if folks are able to. We're just going to remind you we have all these upcoming events. These events are going to be successful if you go to them yourself, if you encourage others to go, if you help us get out the word. If when we have those events, we get newspaper hits or radio hits or television hits, if you share those on with your friends and on social media and get the word out. This is how we spread the good news. And I think we're now going to end with a little group therapy session. So if you could all turn on your cameras if you're able to, we'd love to see everybody's beautiful faces and have a human moment here in the cyber space. And I'm going to turn the rest of the meeting over to my treasured colleague, Jen, without whom I could not have made it through the past 8 months, to lead us in a little visioning about the future we all want to build together here in New York. So thanks, everybody, and take it away, Jen.
Hi, everybody. So I'm so grateful to all of you for joining us this evening and for bringing your compassionate hearts, your brilliant minds, and your unshakable spirits to this movement. It's really meant a lot to me to meet so many of you and to connect with you and to be part of this movement with you. So before we go, I'd just like to take a moment to imagine the future that we're all trying to build together. So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. If not, no need. And just take a moment to imagine a vibrant and just future beyond fossil fuels. In this near-term future, all people can live safer, more sustainable, and more fulfilling lives in community with each other and the rest of nature. Notice what colors you see around you, what sounds you hear, what emotions you feel. And then take a moment to visualize what you need to do to bring this vision to life. Visualize the support system that you need to sustain yourself, to bring this vision to life one step at a time. And then finally take a moment to imagine how you'll feel when Hochul signs the 100-foot rule repeal, bringing us one step closer to ending the era of fossil fuels in New York. As more people like us raise awareness of the damage the fossil fuel industry has been causing, we weaken their social license to operate and their chokehold on the global economy. And when we stand together, we can overcome the deep pockets of the fossil fuel industry. And they are terrified of us because they know we're going to win. It's a truly dark moment for many of us. But as Bill reminded us a couple of weeks ago, the night is always darkest just before the dawn. So, thank you for being here. I hope the rest of your evening is a little bit more peaceful, with a vision of our shared future in mind. Thanks for coming.